So this is our first, hopefully of many, interviews. People of the Music is the name of the show, and tonight our first interview is going to be with Peter from a band that I know called Oceanlord here in Melbourne. So hi Pete.
G'day. Keep going, Jason.
All right. So the first question, really simple. Who are you? Tell us about you and your band.
Yeah, I'm Pete. I play guitar and I sing in Oceanlord. And so Oceanlord's been running, I think we started 2019, writing some music, getting together. Got together with our drummer, John. Chase, of course, he is playing the bass. And had our first show January 2020. Had our last pre-COVID show, I think the end of January 2020. So it was a good month while it lasted. But since then, we recorded an EP pretty early on, managed to record a video clip, and just riding the various waves of COVID shutdowns, lockdowns, shutouts, cancellations, and gigs.
So
Yeah,
so
that's
what
that's us.
so what kind of music? What kind of music does Oceanlord sort of? What's the spectrum?
We're in the stoner rock, doom metal, dark folk space. So it's a little bit bluesy. It's not full on metal. There's singing, but it is dark and heavy and very drum and guitar driven.
Fantastic. Good. He is right. Um, so you said that you play guitar and you sing. So
Yeah.
apart from your vocals, what sort of what equipment do you use?
So I've been playing a Bellman guitar for a long time. Bellman is a Melbourne manufacturer of guitars that's gone out of business in the last 10 years at some point, but they make a PRS sort of guitar, custom made in Australia. They're brilliant. I love them. So I've been playing a Bellman for a long time. I play it through an Angle amp, which I'm using very clean, and then kind of pedals coming through that. So lots of fuzz, lots of reverb, lots of effects, and yeah, big heady sound.
Do you use any effects on your vocals?
I do. I'm using a TC Electronics mic mechanic, which is like a stomp box for your voice.
Hmm.
And so that one's got a little bit of compression and delay and reverb and that sort of thing. So overall, it's not a hugely affected vocal sound. It's pretty clear.
Cool. Excellent. Um, has that changed? Like, has that been the setup you've had from the start of the band, or has it changed over time?
Oh, it's hugely changed. So I, we when we started playing together, like I've never really sung in bands previously. I've played guitar for more than 20 years, but never really sang. And then thought, you know what, who needs singers anyway? They're too much hassle. So I thought I'd give it a crack. And so when we started out, I was using all sorts of like stomp box pedals, Leslie, rotating spinner sort of effects, and chorus and distortion, and so I had just layers and layers of effects. And a lot of that was I liked some bands that do that. There's some bands I really respect that have great kind of effective vocals, especially in the psych rock sort of scene and the doom sort of scene.
Hmm.
But as I went on and got better at singing, just that confidence in my voice had me slowly pulling back the effects to now it's kind of more just the voice and a little bit of reverby chorus to wet it up a little.
And what about? I mean, apart from obvious pedal changes and stuff like that, what about your guitar and amp stuff? Has that been the same all the way through?
Yeah, yeah. So the Bellman and the Engel, I've been playing those two for it has to be nearly 20 years.
Hmm.
Maybe it's kind of 16, 17. Um, so they've just kind of lasted. I've tried other things every now and then, but I just keep coming back to them. So that's been pretty solid. But I have been, changing up the guitar pedals a bit, and I've settled down with some Pharaoh fuzz and a Boss blues driver as a bit of a kind of preamp gain at the start of everything. So
Hmm.
that's the core of the sound now.
Cool. Fantastic. So your influences. I want to find out what were your influences when you first started the band, and maybe your personal and the band influences, and has that changed, or is it still, is it still the same?
Yeah, so when we first started, I was listening to a lot of The Sword, a lot of All Them Witches. Elder was in there pretty prominently. Um, and I had that kind of core of stoner rock and slightly on the side of stoner rock and kind of doomy vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had this inclination towards just dark music in general. So um, influences that are kind of more broadly in my palette that sneak in. I mean, I feel like I can see them there, but I don't know if anybody else would ever agree that that's an influence. But bands like Catatonia, and Portishead, and Enslaved is a black metal band I love, and so like they've always been a part of my musical language, and so they sneak in. But I think the core of the sounds come through the kind of heavy stoner rock sort of vibe. Yeah, so I think over time, I've spent a lot more time listening to a broader set of psychedelic stoner rock.
Mm-hmm.
So bands like Resin have featured really heavily, and I think that's been driving me a little bit more towards a psych stoner space. But I think we're slowly starting to find, our own sound in all of this as well.
Okay. So for I mean, you've just played a gig and someone rocks up and they go, "You sound just like." Do you get that?
Yeah. Um, Not too much. We recorded a show, and the intro to one of our songs, um, from like my iPhone that's at the back of the room, I had heard someone shouting at their friend, "This sounds just like a sleep song," and I was really happy with that. That's, oh, what a compliment, you know.
This is the first time I've actually heard that. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. Well, I was talking about your bass. I'm like, thank you very much. I'll take that.
Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, that's good. Yeah,
If anything, I love playing stoner rock, and I worry that we stray too far away from that sort of sound.
mm-hmm.
So, I didn't kind of hear that and think, ah, crap, we're just another sleep cover band, pretending to write their own songs, so much as we really have kind of captured the heart and essence of some of the stoner rock world, which, Sleep is such an iconic band. If you sound anything at all like Stoner Doom, you sound like Sleep a little bit.
Nice. I'm glad I asked that question. All right, so this one will be interesting because I very firmly know what my favourite gig that we've played. So in this band, of course, you've played with other bands, but in this band, what has been your favourite gig? And when I ask that, I'm asking it's the crowd, how you felt, everything, who you played with, the venue.
Yeah.
What's been your favourite?
So, second favorite was our first show. We had a lot of friends. We had, I had friends from work. We all had mates turn up, and um, it was pretty wild. We just had a big crowd for a small show, and it was our first show,
Mm.
so that was pretty special. I think though the one of the latest gigs we've played was with Holy Serpent, and that was that was fantastic. It was Isua and
Yep.
Jack Harlan and the Dead Crows and Holy Serpent. So originally that was a Witch Skull gig who was supposed to come from Canberra, and then they couldn't travel interstate because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of bumped all the bands up one and then added us at the start. And that was a great show. I think I'm really enjoying post-COVID music. The general vibe of the scene and the crowd, everything's very fresh. Everyone's really excited about going out. It doesn't feel like yet another gig. Sometimes, I don't know, like if you go back to 2019, if you're seeing shows every weekend, it can kind of get a bit samey, and that you end up with a little bit of a jaded view of here we go again. And if a gig's not really exceptional, it's hard to get really psyched about it. But
Okay.
just coming out of a huge drought of shows, every gig that I've been at, there's someone commenting that they haven't seen a live show in 2 years. And so just that energy and excitement to be out and to be listening to music is sort of better than I felt it in a long time.
So what about the opposite then? So I mean, you're saying that people are like, damn, I haven't seen a show for a while. Do you think the bands, or has your band suffered, or you personally suffered that feeling of shit? This has got to be really good because we could be in lockdown again next week and people might not be seeing another show for X amount of time. Do you think there's a little bit more pressure on to perform well, or is it just cool?
Yeah, I haven't really felt that. So like I've been so excited about an opportunity for a show and finally get out again that, like I've just been kind of gung ho, and sure, like, the minute before I get up, it suddenly hits me. And and that's usually when I feel nervous. But yeah, no, overall, people are so pumped that I think the way things are now, and especially with the, bands haven't been able to rehearse as much and all the rest of it. So a lot of bands I've had like one rehearsal, because especially if they've got members that live far away, and restrictions ease in Australia at least, and that might mean that I can play and rehearse with someone who lives in sort of central Melbourne, but I can't rehearse with someone who lives out in the country because maybe Melbourne and the country aren't mixing yet, or that sort of thing. And so yeah, lots of bands just haven't been able to rehearse much, so even when they are getting up on stage, they're still pretty rusty. So that'll change, come back in 2023, and hopefully everybody's just been smashing out shows, and then there'll be a much more of an expectation, I think, of if you're expected to have rehearsed and be on your game. But I think at the moment there's a lot of just grace for just bands playing wherever they are, however they happen to have got it together. I certainly would prefer bands I love to just play, and I don't really care if they make mistakes or if they're a little rusty. I just want to see them.
Well,
I think that's the general vibe.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do you feel about going to see a band and they're a bit rusty? You sort of go, yeah, I forgive that, because I mean, you're in a band, I'm in a band, and it's kind of like, yeah, I get that they're rusty. I get that that's happened.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll take passion over polish any day of the week, anyway. But especially, nowadays, when I go to see a show, it's just wonderful to be alive, having a drink, seeing mates, having a mosh. Yeah, I'm not really looking for or needing someone to have perfected the most amazing rock show.
Okay. All right. So let's go with this one. What's your favourite local band to go and see live, apart from Oceanlord? Well, you can't actually see Oceanlord, can you? I didn't think of that.
No, it'll take a real out of body experience to go and see Oceanlord.
So your favourite,
which can be arranged, I understand.
Yeah, they say, yeah. So when I say local, let's just say Victoria. Let's say local. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Grey Mantis. I've got a real soft spot there. Such lovely people. They have interesting music. I love the vibe that they bring. So yeah, they're probably my my fave at the moment.
Okay. Cool. And so gig lineups. Let's talk about. There's a two-part question. So the first one is I want you to name 3 bands, including your band, that you'd like to do a gig with locally. Like, what's your perfect sort of lineup?
Let's see. I reckon I'm going to say 4 bands. I got 3. I'd love to play a show. I think the dream local lineup would be Dr. Colossus, Jack Harlan, Grey Mantis, and Oceanlord. I think that'd be a fun show.
Now, I had no idea you were going to say that. Legitimately had no idea, but I still haven't put my my Dr. Colossus thing.
That's upside down, which is very metal. But
oh, whoops, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
I haven't put it up yet. So, but yeah, and who would headline?
Oof. No, they'd have to fight it out. Um,
Don't worry about
whoever,
headline.
whoever wants to.
Rochambeau for it.
Yeah,
Um, all right. So that's your local, including Oceanlord.
yeah,
Let's go of any band that's ever existed at any time in history, not including Oceanlord. What would be
yeah.
your perfect lineup for your perfect night? Go.
All right. Um, I'm gonna go with Portishead, um, because they're just phenomenal. Um, and I reckon I'd look for a little bit of Jimi Hendrix, just because I'd missed that train by a good decade or two. And third band, any band.
So you mean the Jimi Hendrix experience, like the Jimi
Yeah, the
Hendrix
Jimi Hendrix
experience?
experience. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yep.
Um, who's band number three? So there's so many bands, and it's hard to narrow it down to just one. Um, I reckon Credence. Credence
Really?
Clearwater Revival. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a fairly eclectic group.
I don't know. Like I think Credence especially are a band that have a very diverse um, range of songs.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got like real country Dixie rock,
Mm-hmm.
Keep on Shuglin' and Proud Mary, and
Mm-hmm.
it's real kind of like banjo slapping blues. And then you've got like Graveyard Train and a whole bunch of
Mm.
really dark. I Put a Spell on You. Heard It on the Grapevine. Yeah, so they've got all of these really dark songs as well. So I think Creedence is secretly my like the first doom band I ever really loved. I reckon Creedence and the Doors. Maybe the Doors in there. I'd love to fit the Doors somehow in that, but like I don't know what you'd get from Jim Morrison.
Three.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
Only three bands, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. Cool. So when you talk about the split in Credence, if you were in charge of the gig and you could dare tell them what they could and couldn't play, would you
Yeah.
say have at it, or would you say I only want you to play the doomy stuff, or I only want you to play the
Oh, no, I would happily craft their set list. I don't know too much about how flexible as creative people they are.
hmm
But yeah, I think I could construct two Credence shows, one of which I'd um,
yeah
probably be bored and not be very interested at all.
hmm
And like all of the country blues fans would talk about the greatest gig they've ever been to,
hmm
and then a really dark psychedelic. It's almost like kind of Blue Oyster Cult, like they had like that aspect to them. I'd love to see all of those songs in one show.
yeah
But that's where I've been into them, and I sort of put up with their cheerful country rock.
okay. All right, so we're rounding out to the end of our time. I'm interested to know what's coming up for Oceanlord. What are you planning?
Well, firstly, I've always wanted to spend my last moments with you, Jace. So sorry, I
Gee.
lost the question. I was thinking that.
Okay, so what's Oceanlord planning? What are you planning? What's Oceanlord? I mean, obviously in Melbourne at the moment, at the time of this
Yeah,
interview, we are in lockdown number 48 or something.
yeah.
But coming out of the lockdown, what sort of things is Oceanlord planning?
We got a heap of projects on the go. So we've got an EP that we're trying to record. So we're going to record that in here. Um, and that was supposed to happen like this week, last weekend. So now that's pushed to whenever it is that we can. So maybe that's September, maybe it's October, maybe it's November. We don't know.
hmm
Um, we've got a album recording planned for October. We were going to record that in Sydney, so now that's almost definitely not going to happen. So now we're trying to work out where are we going to go and do that, and is that going to happen even later? Are we going to roll the two of them into one thing? I don't know at the moment. So
Hmm.
at the moment, we're kind of replanning our plans. And at the moment, I've kind of wiped out September, October from the calendar. I think they're not going to happen. Um, but still, we've got gigs planned in November. We're hoping to head up to Brisbane and play a few shows with Humoral up there. Kurt and the crew up there are bunch of awesome dudes. So I think that's still looking very possible.
Yep.
And then past that into the new year, I think we'll try and get to Sydney, try and get to Adelaide, travel, play shows. Be nice to rehearse again. That'll be cool too. But yeah, so at the moment, plans are hard to have.
Mm.
Um, just because we started this lockdown. What is it now? 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
3 of them, yeah.
Um, so we started with we're just going to do this for a week, and now it's been 3 weeks, and from what I can tell, it's going to be at least another three, if not 6 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you think, and just, you've got a crystal ball, and it used to be
Yeah.
that, to get a great gig, a great lineup, everything set up, and be, months in advance planning. Do you think venues are just going to have to go to the whole, who's available in 2 weeks? What can you drum up in 2 weeks?
Um, not really, mainly because every so shows that get cancelled, and I've seen shows every week for the last month get
Mm-hmm.
cancelled because of
Mm-hmm.
this lockdown. Um, Generally, they'll rebook with the venue for a month or two in the future. So basically, the August shows I saw cancelled, depending on who the promoter is. The optimistic promoters moved them into September.
Mm-hmm.
The pessimistic promoters moved them into November. So I don't think venues are going to be short of shows. They're just waiting to find out if they can have them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think there's going to be a combination of, you know, just last minute cancellations as well. So shows that did get bumped into November,
Mm-hmm.
is that show going to go ahead? And how's the band going to be? Is everybody going to be able to rehearse and play? Is the interstate bands that are supposed to be coming? Will each individual state connection still happen? Can you come from Queensland to Victoria or New South Wales to Victoria? It depends.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, I think from the venue's point of view, they've got a pretty solid pipeline of shows that are just creeping later on in the year, and that it just piles up. So I think there's not going to be any shortage of shows. But yeah, you still got to do something with the weird stuff that happens, a week or two before.
Cool. All right. Final question. This is a really easy one. I've got a People of the Music playlist on Spotify, and I want you to tell me a song. Could be an Oceanlord song or anyone else's that we should put on there. I've currently got 10 songs that I've just sort of put on there just to get something going. But as time goes, I'll remove them. The idea will be that every one of these interviews we do, we collect a song,
Yeah,
and we'll go forward. So, what are we going to put on?
I'd love to see Come Home from Oceanlord, but that's probably already on there, right?
It's
Um,
not.
oh, there you go.
It's not. It's a piece of shit
Let's
song.
yeah,
No. So Come Home. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So I'll add that to our list, and I'll remove one of the 10 that's already on there, and um, at the bottom of down there somewhere, will be a link to that, so people can go and have a listen to your song, and hear the other stuff that's on there. Peter Wilmot from Oceanlord. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jess.